Incoming transmission.
Hello, everybody. How you doing? Welcome to Saving Star Trek. It's your buddy Admiral Teag. I'm joined by PDB, JT Kirk, and Resolute Germ. Guys, today we have an episode called Civilization. Let's go around the horn.
It's chronologically early, I think.
I guess you might be right. Let's go around the horn, and I'll let my panel give their impressions, if any, of this episode of Star Trek Enterprise, and then we'll go ahead and watch it. So let's start way over at throw the ball down to second base. PDB, you start. Boom. Civilization impressions.
So this episode's very self-contained and very novel. The crew are very fresh-faced and kind of naive, but their naivete doesn't come back to bite them in this episode. They're not, shown up. The villain feels very much like a TOS tier villain. The casting choice for the bad guy was great, and it really feels like someone Kirk would have fought. Like, I could really envision Kirk and him punching each other on a mountain. It's got like a decent, coherent plot with understandable stakes. They're doing this on behalf of a relatively impoverished or technologically primitive people, just because it's the right thing to do. Yeah.
Right. Yes. There's an aspect of
really motivated by morals, and they could just leave and say like, to Paul's right, we shouldn't interfere, but they're not gonna, because they have their own sense of what is right and wrong, and leaving these people to drink lead paint is not the right thing to do.
She's acting exactly like early Spock, in the sense that early Spock is just like overly unemotional. Later on in the emotional journey, and I guess everybody could tell me if they think this is true, I don't think Spock would have made a calculation like he does in a Doomsday Machine, where he's like, we're going to lose the whole solar system. We would lose no matter what. That solar system is doomed. We have to get out of range of the Doomsday Machine and tell everybody to converge on it and attack. While he's right, Captain Kirk proves that was inhumanly wrong. The calculation was to risk everything. Like, now we have 1.5 ships. Let's go after this freaking thing now.
They have a certain lack of intuition and passion, and it does kind of lead to their sense of how would you say it, stagnation. And they don't really seem to have much room for intuitive advancement.
And next up is JT, Civilization.
Oh, this episode is probably one of my favorites out of the last 5 or 6 that we've watched. It feels familiar, yet fresh.
Yes.
And I like that it doesn't go a bit too far in some places. We also get some better CGI of an underground diabolical lair that is worthy of Harvey Cthulhu.
It is worthy.
I'm expecting to see some of Doomcock's Loyal Legion down there.
You know what the thing is about an underground layer is you don't want to go too far. So when you approach it, you have to approach it in an artistic manner. George, what do you think about an underground layer? If for a villain,
may have gone too far in a few places.
Yeah, but like if you design it, what would you do to design a villain's lair?
Stylistically designed to be that way, and you can't undo that, but we can diminish the effects of it.
Exactly, George.
Right. You don't want
words right out of my mouth.
Right. You don't want to be a mustache twirler, but you want to have a good villain layer. This guy is a good villain, and as people pointed out, he was a villain very consistent with TOS. This episode, it's like somebody drank the right Kool-Aid and watched the right combination of TOS episodes.
Yes.
At that meeting where they were yelled at for being out of touch with Star Trek and writing Star Trek that was about other bad Star Trek instead of writing Star Trek that was about the core ideas of exploration. And it's like, you have circled around your plot with this Borg thing for 3 years on Voyager. It's only gone so far. Your captain on Voyager changes every week. We want character consistency. We want relatable stakes. We don't want all this fucking weirdness. So while everyone else is freaking out, the people in the makeup department are like, we're never going to have to design a Neelix-like alien again. We're fucking set.
And the makeup and costume department excel in Enterprise. I think they had a lot of room to shine in some of these episodes. Like, this planet's set design looks really consistent. Like you were pointing out, some of these items.
It looks like a TNG planet, but it's cool.
Yeah, it does kind of look like the planet that gets radiation poisoning that Data loses his mind on. But
Thine own self. Season
Yes,
7.
that's a really good
episode
episode.
6.
It does kind of look like that, and they're going for like a low Renaissance, high medieval type of setting, so it makes sense. You know, they've got sloops of war, and they've got apothecary alligators, and they've got teapots that look like a metal net or something,
My,
right?
my impression is they were in the Baroque era, like right about
It looks a
where the
little
Europeans
before
started
that,
settling
yeah.
America. That seems
I'd say a
be
little
about
before
their
that,
tech
yeah.
level. She's
Yeah.
easily able to process lighter than air flight, but then later on we see some other things where they may go a bit too far in a few places. But
Exactly.
It does feel very Italian.
JT, any more thoughts on Civilization before I throw it to
Oh gosh,
my
I don't want to
baseman,
spoil
Jim?
it. I don't want to spoil
Sure.
it, but folks, stick around. This is a good one.
All right, back to the catcher, over to third base. Germ, step on the bag and tell us what you think.
I think it's a good little episode. Not my favorite of the ones they've had so far, but it's very consistent. The casting of the villain was good, and it's a good look at how they handle first contact in the early years and what leads to stuff like the Prime Directive.
It's a nice episode as far as it's not very high paced. It's not paced breakneck. Things develop relatively organically, and we have a much better story in 44 minutes of Star Trek or 46 minutes of Star Trek than I got out of that Alien movie. You know what? I now give my thoughts. This episode of Civilization, it's almost as though the captain makes a quantum leap onto a totally different show. It's like a personal journey for Captain Archer. We don't see Porthos, I think, at all. The mail had started coming in, and people didn't like the dog. At this point, it might be the first episode where they have feedback, but their feedback's from like episodes 1, 2, and 3. They're starting to hear things about their own show. They've been on long enough. This one may have had time. It was probably finished first, but we're talking episode 9. They had time to go back and rethink on this one before they put it on TV. I'm wondering if they made some adjustments or switched the order of stories, because this week
Quite possible.
we're going very small this week. We're doing something that I really love about Starfleet, and it's part of the Star Trek Matrix. We care about even one person, and sometimes even one person will show that they care about everyone else. So he's like the level of preparation and willingness to sacrifice yourself or to do the right thing or to risk your life to do the right thing is all over this episode. They're total Boy Scouts. What they aren't yet is very discreet. And I guess it's become a trope. But this week, as every week, T'Pol told them, maybe don't go to that Baroque era planet. Is it becoming too tropey?
If this had been a season 3 episode, it would have backfired on them. Like they would have found a reason that T'Pol was right in like the beginning of the third act.
Or T'Pol would have made an allowance, being like, while it seems inadvisable, I have learned against talking. I've learned not to vocalize my misgivings with your human policies. It only encourages.
Yeah, she says while snorting.
Yeah. But I love it, but no, she has the best delivery system for that space crack ever. If that drug existed, I wouldn't care how bad it was for you. The way that thing like vaporized like the crack rock, and then it went into like that central chamber where it expands and then like goes into another chamber where you like that was I would do that drug no matter how bad it was for you, unless I had to get it from Raffi. I would do that drug.
Pure aesthetics.
I'll again say I feel like we had nice small stakes this week. The point of this episode is that we're going to show that we care about any given one crew member as much as we care about the entire ship. Only Archer really is out there in it. And you know what? We're going to get some nice action and adventure on the final frontier.
I like this morning meeting formula. I like that got their ready room just tied to the meeting room, just tied directly to the bridge.
We're going to have some fun with Captain Archer here.
Yep. So a supernova, some dead stars, and they're all like, "Yeah, we waited to tell ya. Save the best for last."
RRTNZ. RRTNZ loves the song, but you and him have a slight difference. He prefers the season 1 and 2 PDB, and you prefer season 3 and 4, right?
3 and 4. I like the energy that the drums give it. Yeah. Okay, they're called they have their like space iPad there showing them the map.
We talked about it today. RTNZ and I were tweeting or Xing about it today, and what I was saying is the approach seasons 1 and 2 is when the Rolling Stones get stripped down and they only have like 3 pieces of brass and a piano player with their 2 guitar players, bass player, drummer, and singer. And season 4 is like the Stones live. It's like they bring out the whole brass section, 2 percussionists and another piano player, and it's just like they go big. And it's
like if an Offspring
song.
concert started with "Gone Away."
I think they were
must
just like
say-
they couldn't afford a Stones song. They should have.
Is this
It should
her
have
real
been
hair?
2000 Light Years from Home. Let me look.
Oh, she looks
Well,
good
next
with
shot.
the weird ridges.
Yes.
That is Hoshi's real hair.
Okay. I didn't know if she had extensions because her hair goes back quite far. See?
I think they've added volume to it
Well,
somehow.
they've added to
Yeah.
it. They've added to it. Although I think what they did was they just put in a few wig pieces and made all of her hair curlier.
Yeah.
Looks beautiful on that, by the way. Just absolutely.
That it really works on her.
She's
They're like
it
fantasy.
doesn't
They're like Final
dehumanize her
Fantasy
either.
characters because every one of them's got like 8 belts.
You know what? This was like the frustration of like at the point they put this alien upgrade onto these people to make them look that way. Someone like very angrily was like, and this should have been what we did with Balana the whole time.
Yeah.
Well,
They should have just like went outside the studio and found a box turtle and glued it to Balana's head. And here's the bit a bit I love where Trip reminds Paul to
papers.
tuck her pointed ears tuck her hair over her pointed ears so she doesn't look like she's out of Lothlorien Woods.
So here's a question: would Hoshi Sato be allowed to be played by Linda Park today, considering what Tim says?
Huh.
I think so.
high.
There's no
you
money
know,
in it.
High use of a realistic set here. Flame, not like New
Open
Trek.
flame.
New Trek.
Yeah, that
couldn't
plan
afford it.
made sense. Just finished season 4. I love Hoshi as the tramp in the Mirror Darkly. Yes,
Yeah.
he played it well.
I love the
These are
belly
the
shirt uniforms in the Mirror
Yes!
Universe.
Here's the thing: in that one, she's not a crackhead, but Jolene Blaylock has the crackhead crazy hair, which always makes
because
her look
Vulcan's-
super hot.
Was she born yet at the time of first contact? She's probably grown up entirely under human dominion in the Mirror Universe.
Yeah.
Probably. First contact doesn't go very well for the Vulcans. The humans arrive like 6 months later.
Yeah. So here they show up in their hooded robes, crawling around. This is really well done, I think. I like the way
This
the shots is
also
done.
reminds me of TOS.
Yeah, the level of the threat is very TOS. It's close to the ground.
We have a very TLS story on a very TNG set. Sorry, go ahead.
Love that lockpick, by the way.
Yeah, we don't need no stinking sonic screwdriver.
Yeah, they don't need to shoot the lock open either.
Exactly.
In New Trek, they would have blown up the entire structure. They would have had They would have had a phaser attack
Just-
from above and
Just make a
gone
door
into
and
the
like
roof.
cut a hole through the wall. Yeah.
I don't know. They would have given her like one of the Skyrim lockpicks to Mikey Spock,
Yeah.
and only Mikey Spock will have learned lockpicking. In immediately
Accordion
is lockpicking level 99. Or
Yeah.
The
expert,
original, the first idea they would have would be like, by using our phasers, we could set most of the building on fire and get the people to open the door for us.
missing the best part.
2149.
She has a crossbow pistol.
Yeah, it's
Oh, yeah,
really
we-
funny.
we-
It's like the combination like Knuckle Duster
Very
Apache
close to
Revolver,
Dragons.
but from medieval era.
Mm-hmm.
The tiny little
It was almost
crossbow is
like-
so funny.
The tiny little crossbow pistol would have been like, I could just see that at the production meeting. It's like, I saw this movie with Jeremy Irons. He gave a fantastic performance. What was it called? Dungeons and Dragons. They had pocket crossbows. Love it. Love it.
Curved swords.
In New Trek, Burnham would pry the door open. It depends on the season. Hang on a second, guys. Let me just speak to this one. RTNZ. JT was here with Quabi, and we're glad to have some of the other fleet. And we send out best wishes to Dad Man, who's going to join us. He's not like nothing wrong with Dad Man. He was just like he had tech problems and he wasn't feeling great. Like he's not in any kind of trouble. But we appreciate it. We took a 10-week jump to where the other fleet would have been. They were like 10 episodes and a discussion away from Enterprise. So
Yeah.
in a beautiful way, the last thing we'll do, and at this rate, it'll be in something like 21 years, but we have job security. The last thing we'll do is sell those final few episodes of Voyager, and by then it'll be like 30 years since great Star Trek, and we'll be like, I remember this episode of Voyager where they find the transwarp corridors and great, but the craftsmanship of the sets, they had incidental music. By the way, you mentioned that this episode, the score. And
The score is
RRTNZ,
really good in
thank
this
you.
episode. They make the planet and the ship feel really different. I also really like Picard's uniform. The costume department's popping off in this episode. Archer's uniform.
You mean
Picard, I do mean Archer. Yeah, sorry. Archer's uniform in this episode, they both got that RRR in them. Pirates. His uniform here looks like Kirk's Admiral uniform a little bit. Here we go. Here's the villain. I like this guy a lot. Very well cast, very well acted.
who is this actor? I
He's
feel
so
like we've seen
familiar.
him before.
Let me
He
look him
looks
up.
like Ron DeSantis.
But he
You know,
looks
it
like
does.
he's straight out of a TOS episode. Like whether it's the wig or the way he presents himself, he feels like someone who would fight.
Look at him. It's Ron DeSantis. He's like, listen to me, DeSanctimonious.
Who's it supposed to be? The devil? Oh, he went down to Georgia.
Wade Williams.
Imagine worshiping a guy who got his ass beat by a redneck with a fiddle.
By the
Wade
way,
Williams was in Dark Knight Rises, Batman: The Dark Knight Returns, Part 1.
do you,
Oh, he
you know what?
Cowboy
RRTNZ, if RRTNZ is wow, he did a lot of stuff. If RRTNZ is saying, was that a Freudian slip or a Shakespearean slip? We had a really interesting, almost tangential conversation on that before, PDB and I, where I was saying, like, the way the conversation unfolds is so organic. It's such good storytelling. It's sort of like this. It's like, imagine all of us were walking down the street and we had to get through a certain part of it, right? And like while we were there, someone slipped and fell. And we were like, wow. And I went like, Jesus. And everyone looked at me like, because we didn't know, I'm the only local. And they're like, what do you mean? It's like, well, she fell down. Jesus, that was crazy. And then like we continued to walk and we saw someone who was like whacked out on space crack screaming and yelling in the street. And I just heard you use the word Jesus as a metaphor for crazy because you saw something crazy. You're like, Jesus, but it's just an excited explanation. And then when we saw someone acting like emotionally disturbed, they'd be like, we better stay away from them. Why? Well, they're acting very Jesus-like. And that's like the kind of grammatical mistake he's made.
That revealed him as a foreigner to this planet.
I like his indignance at the idea they should tell him anything. He's like, so what? Fuck you.
Yeah, he's like,
and
I
he has something they don't.
Yeah.
He has something they don't. A replicator.
Yeah.
He also played on an episode of Deep Space Nine.
Oh.
Or not Deep Space Nine, Voyager. I'm sorry, Voyager.
By the way,
And
is the problem with this?
Yes, he was the prison guard.
He's
RTNZ. He was the
living
prison guard
medium.
in Prison Break.
Nice. So he's explaining it as correlation, not causation.
And he's got a beautiful gravelly voice there too.
Yeah, I can agree with you on this one to a point. There's something a little bit Dean Cain-ish, but Dean Cain was so classically handsome. This guy, he was like born to play a somewhat on the edge villain. He's a spy or a cop actor for sure.
They did a really good job making him a salesman too. Like he's not just villain; he's like a salesman villain. He's all business.
He's friends with Grand Nagus Shrek, a young Grand Nagus Shrek.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have had a little more where they're like, this planet gets an exceptional amount of sunlight or something to justify how they have like, it is very like Italy, but it seems like they can depend on a lot of sun. Like, are they in the habitable zone? Like, we decided to go to the nicest part of the planet,
Yeah.
something like that.
They might
To
be close
explain
to
the design a little more. But the thing is, it doesn't look like a standard planet. It just looks like a place we might have been to before at some point.
Yeah. T'Pol's got her magic, like, 2000s blobject scanner where she can digitize a page instantly. So, Rion's some kind of scientist.
I love this
She's
part.
like a, yeah. She's a real Paracelsus type, you know. I'm surprised she didn't have an alligator hanging from the ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of have an understanding of germ theory, not completely, but they know that like diseases aren't magic, they're caused by microbes, but maybe not microbes. They just know, oh, it's some kind of thing, a substance.
This is something
She
that I
has some
found.
Da Vinci in her, though, like sketching the city from
Got
overhead.
Da
Yeah,
Vinci's therm- he's got
without
Da
it
Vin-
being
Da
like
Vinci's
Janeway's
thermometer.
insane crush on Da Vinci.
One of the things we said
What's that?
before was a lot. One of the things we said when we watched this was a lot of people don't seem to act quite naturally or in a way that makes sense. Like a lot of the reactions seem wrong or off. We spent some time speculating on possible reasons why these performances seemed a little flat and muted, especially from some of the cast members. It was later we found out the terrible reason why. One of the filming days for this episode was September 11th, 2001.
I'm just saying she reminds me of, say, Suzanne Vega or Enya a little bit.
I
Would be about
absolutely
right.
agree, and that's what they were going for too.
Yeah, absolutely. She looks like she would have an album of mostly vocals. And here Archer's translator malfunctions and like midway through a sentence. It's funny. So it seems to like break the sentence into grammatical blocks. Because she gets
And
the
then
clause in
Archer
there,
does
but
something.
it
It's a very
doesn't translate
very
the clause
Kirk.
by clause.
very Kirk
Then you-
thing right here.
When was the last time that any of us can remember on any of these modern shows that we watch, including Modern Trek, having a fairly full orchestra competently accomplishing a very emotional score that, while not overwhelming, is deeply appropriate and somewhat signature to Star Trek? Very appropriate here.
Yeah.
Also, when's the last
Yeah,
time you've seen
it
a man
turns from the
initiate
slow-
a kiss like that out of the blue
Yeah,
I mean,
not often.
No, they'll never do that again.
without me tooing himself? Right.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to meet to myself later after looking at some pictures of Jolene Blaylock as a space crackhead.
It's-
I'm going to have interracial sex with myself later.
They should have had her navel be in a weird place when they were showing off her belly in that belly shirt. Just like Vulcans have their
We've
belly button
seen-
like right at the end of the sternum or some shit. That'd be funny.
We've seen that part of their bodies before, though. You know, it'd be cool too if we gave Klingons a second penis.
No.
I don't want to see that.
I know they did that in Discovery or something, right? That's stupid.
You guys just don't have the vision to think of writing your name in cursive and in regular print at the same time, or that the Klingons are just like sharks. Think about it. They're so toxic, and masculine, so we give them an extra penis.
Yeah, something like that.
I don't want to think about that. Feels like a bit of an X-Files thing. They got the light shining down on them. They had a shot very much like that in the first episode as well, where they have
And the
floodlights
UFO
suddenly come on.
comes in right here.
Yeah, she has so little of a frame of reference for what's going on that she's not scared. Like she doesn't realize she's supposed to be scared. It's just pure wonderment.
Actually,
Like not everyone cowers when they see an alien. Some of them are like, "Whoa, cool," or she doesn't even know what she's looking at. You know. She like by the same token, they don't quite have guns, maybe, because she's not scared of the gun. I don't
This is a
necessarily know that it was bad
TNG
acting direction.
This is an awesome TNG level set.
Yes, definitely. This is on par with something you'd have Data fighting lore in.
But it's definitely
like,
a set.
I don't know.
I do not believe this is outside anywhere.
Yeah, it's not outside. You'd have like, I don't know, Picard has to debate a sentient mountain while he and Riker climb to safety after an avalanche. Actually, it is kind of like the set from the one where there's the avalanche and Geordi and the Romulan are stranded at the bottom.
Here we go, guys. This costs no money, but it's pretty cool for an episode. We have been smart enough to make it a little dark, so doubling isn't that tough. But it looks to me as though Scott Bakula is ready to do a few of his own stunts.
Yeah.
They put the nice thwack punch noises in there too.
I
wish they had pulled this mask.
Look at that.
Completely.
I love that.
Because V is very popular. V is very popular, so we made him a V alien.
Very X-Files. Yeah. The truth is
in
out
the Kirk battle. Although
it is a Kirk battle. They needed to put a fucking two-fisted punch.
By the way, in New Trek, when his face ripped away, the person would have lost their composure and beat him to death with their hand phaser.
Yeah, or barfed.
Well, yeah, and they would have cursed a lot. She just has an odd reaction during the firefight later.
They got their little Bluetooth remote to turn off the magnetic field. It's great.
Here's the thing, though. They're piling on so much future tech. She just found out about lighter-than-air flight, and now she's seeing phasers, and she's not, like, having a meltdown.
Yeah, she's a scientist. Yeah. She doesn't need the grand tour of the ship.
Benjamin Franklin was a scientist. If we She's not caveman. She's closer to Ben Franklin. Ben Franklin was a scientist. He invented the potbelly stove. If we grabbed him, beamed him to a neutral location on Pitcairn Island and started blowing shit up with phasers and aerial bombarding stuff and transporting people,
I think he'd know what he was looking at.
He would have no.
No. I disagree completely. He'd be able to intuit what he was looking at.
I would tend to agree with PDB. Phantom Outsider brings up a good point. She has a thing for the captain, so where he goes, she's going to follow. So it's a total
wherever you will go.
She's a little smitten, so she's going to remain calm.
So Hoshi can translate writing with her device, but Archer can't, or maybe there needs to be a larger frame of reference. I think that's the only discrepancy I was thinking of.
Well, it could translate the more ancient text.
Writing.
But maybe not this.
Street. Or maybe it doesn't have enough of a body of knowledge built up to intuit what the symbols mean. And so now they're just playing Simon Says. Is it the blue light or the yellow light?
The red wire, obviously.
Yeah. It's keep talking and nobody explodes.
What I didn't like here was Baroque era person's idea is as good as 22nd century person's idea. Hey, Wes Cagle, thank you.
I don't know. She brought up a good point. I mean, they both didn't know anything about it.
Oh, thank you, Wes Cagle.
Thank you very much, Wes Cagle, for being a member since day one.
Better combat effects than New Trek.
The way he's presented on the monitor there and the way he delivers the threat is so TOS.
I agree.
Yeah.
He's purely serious. The way the shot is framed and the competence of the threat. I can fire 10 of those charges.
And the vestigial resemblance to Kirk's uniform right here is exactly what they wanted.
Yeah.
Especially when his back's turned to the light, like aesthetically it's the same if you material's different.
The Malurian is disgusted that they're explorers. He's like, "Oh, you're explorers."
He's like Admiral Teag in Midtown. Fucking tourist. Yeah, he's not from Space New York. He's from like Space LA. He's not too cool.
I expect him to say, "Are you not entertained? Are you not?" entertained. Like he just has a very gladiator look to him. Not like a Russell Crowe duplicate. Just
he's
I
very
could see him in
Roman.
that type of
Yeah.
film.
We debated this a lot, everybody. Watch Archer's weapon. When Archer starts messing around with his weapon, there's something like there's a prop inside the prop. We don't know if it's a trick of the light. It seems like to us that it was two center frame. It looks like when he wants to turn up the beam or focus the beam, he turns something, and we see
Archer
something
still kind of doesn't
analog
trust
move
Paul to make
inside.
command decisions here.
This is a cool tech thing that Trip is going to do here in a moment.
I like the space battle. Very action.
I like the ship.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I like the Sydney Sweeney emojis.
And they're still kind I
Hell
like
yeah.
the kind of relative inaction they have. Oh, Cyrus is here.
So, hey, Cyrus, what's up?
Let's go already.
How's it going?
We're enjoying the end of this exciting and interesting, small stakes but enjoyable episode of Enterprise. Although I guess now it is for all the marbles, but it doesn't seem like the enemy's intentions are to destroy. They're like, let's not do this. We don't want to mess up our good thing of value here. Like,
See, everybody does.
Aliens.
Everybody does what normally is done in a kind of like this mass pew pew type thing. I can't say what it exactly is. Euphemism.
But
too.
the thing is that they
I
don't have guns in their world, but it takes them a moment to figure out what's going on. Like they turn and look and they're confused, and then they start running at the second shot.
I take issue with the idea that all these Baroque people saw a phaser pistol fight and they're not screaming and much. Oh, she looks hot there.
First time we're doing not a site-to-site transport, but darn near.
Yeah, we can't quite pull that off.
Stopover on the ship, yeah.
Yes.
And the way that the levers he has to pull is very intuitive. You pull them down to transport it to you, and push them up to transport it away from you.
So we've used the tech to blow down, takes down their shields. So Paul is a better battle commander than Archer right now.
Oh, I'm sure she has a lot more experience at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just
she's also resourceful, though, too. You got to give that to her.
Here's where I feel like this woman's reactions were just off. I had issues with the direction of this sequence.
I think it was fine. Well, she's a scientist. She would know measurements like that.
Yeah, you're just getting what Archer's translation is. She
probably I think little nitpicks like that don't matter as the broad thematic strokes.
Little nitpicks like that are different between an A+ and a B.
I don't even think that. So they've gotten rid of all the mining equipment. They did all this out of a moral duty. Like the people didn't even know.
I'm laughing. He's like, here, drink this liquid. She's like, what is it? And then he just giggles.
Like, it looks like a Baby Bell cheese container.
What was the cause of the pollution? Was it his replicator?
Yeah, in the mining. The tools were coated with that lubrication for the mining, and then that oil was getting into the groundwater.
And that brings us to the end of the episode, guys. Yeah, you know what? If this had been the opening theme, a lot of people wouldn't have given him endless grief. Endless grief. Why did the song stop early? Jeez. I paid for the whole song.
You did, however.
I paid for the whole speedometer. I'm going to use the whole speedometer.
Exactly.
Just has to pretend she invented that cure. Yeah.
Right. And she won't have to explain it. That's going to be the kind of thing where, like, if we use our imaginations deeply, like if we were to find like a vial, like an old ampule of medical stuff and find out that it was made like in the 23rd century, like at like Jamestown, and be like, somebody came here, from the future or from another civilization and gave them a cure to whatever was killing them off.
She would be the one to come up with the cure, though. She is the apothecary for that area, and no one really outside of that area is really concerned with the problem of people getting sick, because as I say, it's just like that little coastal area that's being affected.
You know what? You're right. This was a small scale incursion by some unprincipled aliens. Do you think that maybe this is going to build on and jump off for anybody? Is this going to build up the situation we've seen where society gets contaminated by some rather unprincipled aliens? Are we going to see this figuring into Archer's calculation that we need something like a prime directive, or is this just going to make him a little more adversarial towards Paul? Like, well, where do we see this leading? We already know where it leads, but let's speculate.
I see this just continuing forward as it is. Do-gooder humans help out people that they don't really know and they don't know the situation, and the Vulcans get roped into checking in on them every once in a while.
That's fair enough. Anyone else have a feeling about this one?
I would agree
Yeah,
with
like-
him. I don't think there's much more to add on that. I think, look, TOS
Yeah.
is not
This
as
episode's
rigid
very
with the prime
self-contained.
directive. In TOS, Kirk breaks the prime directive how many times?
Well, here's the thing. He gets accused of breaking the prime directive in episodes before it had been invented, though. And also, like, sometimes they
Yeah.
break the prime. In the episode A Taste of Armageddon, their mission is absolutely contrary to the prime directive. It's sort of like you're going to invade the sovereignty of another country, even though we said we wouldn't do it, and you're going to force them to sign this treaty by kidnapping whoever you have to and upsetting their society. What do? They delete themselves in self-deletion booths. Like, yeah, okay, I'm your guy. And they're like, do not approach. He's like, tell them to go get effed. It's a little weird.
Yeah.
Let's see. Given that the
What,
Earth only has one ship out in deep space, they're not a big player in the universe. The Federation isn't even a thing yet. Starfleet is, though. All they do is almost pointless. These guys will just come back. They're not looking to be space cops. They're exploring, they're learning lessons. They don't feel a need to protect this species, but they do feel a need to stop this situation right now. Maybe these guys will be afraid and go to a different planet, or now that they've armed this woman with the cure, we don't know if they've told her how to make it. There's enough left to the imagination. Although, this is not like the omitted information we have in New Trek, where it's key information. This is ancillary information. Like, she may have the ability to make more of the cure, or she may have been told how to replicate the cure from what she has in her environment. Let's go about the assessing of the episode. And we'll go the opposite way. I'm going to take third base first. I'm going to throw it down. I am in the behind the plate, wearing the tools of ignorance. Your buddy Admiral Teag throws El Palute over to third base and Resolute Germ. Give us your thoughts on this one, buddy.
I liked it pretty well. The casting was good, especially for the villain. The girl wasn't as reactive as you'd think. That might have been a little bit of Botox to cover up a few wrinkles or just bad direction, but is acceptable enough, especially being in a long-term stressful situation like she had been in. I wouldn't expect her to lose her mind finding out about aliens and higher tech, but I give it a B-. Nice, self-contained. Don't ever really have to worry about any of the players in the episode again. As is, it's pretty good. You don't want it to affect anything else.
Anything else you want to say about it?
No, that's it.
Because you know what? There is something wrong with her reaction. And when we saw the director had like 22 episodes of Star Trek under his belt when he did this, I'm like, they keep bringing this guy back because no one else wanted to do it. Did he? Like, why is this this woman totally inconsistent? Go ahead and throw the ball over to over to the shortstop and PDB. Go ahead and give us your opinion. What do you think of this one? And give us your grade.
This episode, as I said in the beginning, I think it's really good. I think that it nails the TOS mood in a lot of ways. They knew that what they were doing, it was structurally sound. The stakes are good. Their motivations are good. It shows that they're moral, even if, they have to interfere a little bit. I think that ultimately this plot was born of the right people doing the right thing at the right time. I really like it.
On this comment right here, I just would say, this wouldn't be the worst place to go back to as long as you told people they had to like keep themselves undercover. This is going to be an interesting point to continue to observe. I don't know about a port of call. They're too far behind. Like the Vulcans are going to be like, you can't do that. And even Archer was smart enough to keep it to one person. What can I tell you? I don't know. The good news is if she tells anybody she's an alien, they'll think she's nuts. PDB, anything else to say on this one? What grade did you give it? Have you graded this one yet? Or
Like Bono
you have
looking
anything
for
to say?
reading Where's Waldo. Like Bono reading Where's Waldo. I still haven't found what I'm looking for.
What more do you have to say on this episode, and what grade would you give it?
I'd give it an A. Honestly, it's all around solid. The bits that detract from it aren't enough to bring it down past below an A. I think that really to its benefit is that it's not subversive. It doesn't undercut itself. It plays it straight. It's exactly what you would expect. Like I was saying, if this had been a season 3 episode, they would have, Paul would have, warned them against interfering with great reservations because she's seen that they do a good job, but then they would have found a reason to have not interfered. Like maybe Rian would have betrayed them to the authorities in the third act. I feel like is what they would have done if this was a season 3 episode. They and it would have just been a diversion from the war. But yeah, I think at the right place in the right time in the show's run, it's good that this episode was all to its own. It was a new thing, a new world, new people, and a new problem.
And Ron,
And they acted morally the way that they should have.
yeah, they actually it would seem like the Prime Directive was partially in place. Like certainly these ideas are being thought of really early on. Friend of mine says at Admiral Teag, it would have been 4 weeks on Cobby's channel, 16 episode. Here that'd be 4 months of agony. I want to address that for a moment. I love Clobby, and rest in peace. And he was a great captain, and he loved everyone in his fleet. And this is not meant to disparage him. He had his method, and he wanted to review all of Star Trek. He came really close, and he's sorely missed by all of us. But here's the thing: 4 episodes. When we ended up inheriting this spot because we weren't going to leave the Star Trek community out there on their own. When we ended up changing from movies that we voted on, and Star Trek won like 7 weeks in a row, and then the other show announced they weren't coming back, and that's when we said we'll try to cover some of their time frame, and we're not going to leave the Star Trek community out there on its own. But I honestly think that 4 was too much, and from memory was too much. I have noticed that in general, everybody seems to be having a higher opinion of the show Enterprise because of this approach. No one's working off memory. No one's getting jaundiced by another opinion. We're seeing people holding their ground. We're seeing not passionate, but spirited differences of opinions, on how they approached it. So Clobby was great as the admiral of his fleet, and their fleet did it the way they did it. It was great, but I can't do it that way. This was never intended to be a copy of Clobby's show. We just took our show the way we've always been doing it, and we brought it to this spot. We tried doing 2 episodes. It was doable, but YouTube weather means it's not. So I apologize about that. Let's see. Phantom Master says there are 2 anomalies the Enterprise can check out. Cap goes on holiday. LOL. Yeah, I mean, honestly, the civilization is more appealing to explore.
I would agree with that. I mean, those other 2 things will still be there in 1,000 years. This civilization as it is today will not.
It's changing it's changing every few years. It's changing daily because of the interference.
I don't think Archer needs 1,000 years. Just go away for 2 weeks, check out those other 2 anomalies, and he's ready to come back.
He does have a phaser, and he is more than a match for those aliens. He beats the piss out of one of them, and he shoots a few of them. I wonder if he had his phaser set to kill. We don't see people burning or like scorch marks. I guess he was stunning them. How did he know it would work? Never seen these lizard boys before.
Well, that's the only tool he has. You got to give it a shot. I give him props for fighting hand to hand and not getting his butt kicked, right?
Trained in combat, hand to hand, right? Is one of the Green Berets. Yeah, you know what? This was the most unapologetically Kirk-like episode that they've done with Archer. They're going to start to make him more and more in the mold of Kirk. There's a rejection of the Picard type captain going on in the minds of the week-to-week showrunners. Like, the problem with Patrick Stewart is not only was he a miserable bastard who wanted his money and only cared about that and whined about like the seriousness of the other cast members, but he was demanding profound stories from Star Trek. We could go a little easier. We have like so many built up stories that guy wouldn't do about like the captain having like a fling, or the captain being slightly irresponsible. He understood what he wanted his character to be, but he was an unfun and different kind of character who redefined all our captains. We have like one captain that's super grim in Cisco and one captain that's off the wall loopy in Janeway. We have to like throw both the high and the low out. Cisco may have worked, but he was far too serious. Janeway didn't work and she was off the wall. The actress did a good job. The part let her down. With Archer, they're just like, we're going to lean into what people liked about Star Trek. He's going to be like kind of like a ladies' man. He's going to kind of be like a little bit like adventurous. He's willing to duke it out. He's willing to shoot it out. He's smarter than you.
Like there's a bunch of episodes where he deceives aliens with a whole persona. Like Canamar is one of the best episodes of that season.
Usually after the watch party, I try to edit this down to an hour, get a little more perspective out of it, but it also reaches people who only like uploads. Hello, you people who only like uploads. I'm talking to you. Hello, it's nice to speak to you. This is all for you. We go back and I edit it down to an hour so it's more consumable. But sometimes YouTube loves it. It loved Andorian Incident and it showed it to over 2,000 people. It took it 2 weeks to light up. I don't understand what goes on with this. Maybe it was shown somewhere else. Maybe there was a Star Trek festival increased it, but it blew up. So a few more likes on that conversation and maybe people will be able to hear it, and we'll be able to get our message out to more people. And I would appreciate that. I would appreciate that. But if you can't do it, you're cool too. Liking the stream helps also. We talked about our method earlier, but and thank you. We talked about our method a little bit earlier, but I do want to say this. I thought 4 a week might have been one too many anyway, but that was me. I didn't run that show. I thought that we had gotten to a point where when we do Voyager, first of all, the good news is Voyager's something like 18 years away, the way we've been getting through these shows. But when we do Voyager, I suppose, like I said, it'll be so long from the time we get good Star Trek, if everybody and all these dire predictions come out the way they are, that when we watch them say, there's coffee and not nebula, like people are going to be saying like, I miss the colors of Star Trek, and listen to how the sweeping music comes in to cover up the fact that they're aware that this line isn't so great, and they're trying to make Chakotay a hero here. They don't do it, but I appreciate the work that got put into it, even if it was inconsistent. Let's see. It has a very TOS feel. It's all a bit neatly and tidily wrapped up. It works out without a prime directive as a plot device. I give it a B+ for story character, but AAA+++ for the theme song. A lot of people love Faith of the Heart. In my mind, this is probably the Federation national anthem in world.
I always got the impression that they that it was meant to be basically Archer's internal monologue. It's specifically Archer thinking, I'm going to see the stars.
I think that, like, when you go to the Museum of Recreation of Baseball for the one baseball game that they play a year, they're like,
historical reenactment baseball.
Yeah, honestly. What do you think? Yeah. Honestly, and I think
Deep Space Niners.
Yeah, right.
And yet nobody on the Voyager knows what a truck is except Paris.
Well, here's the thing. Yeah. Well, here's the thing. There's baseball. There's a baseball league on Cestus 3, but that might have been settled by like Yankee fans or something like that. I don't know. But the bottom line is, could you imagine like once a year when you go to the baseball museum for the one game they play, it's like, please welcome the Niners versus the Logicians, and it'd be like another 265 to nothing game. It's like, yeah, those Vulcans are 6 times stronger than a human. When they throw that ball past the speed of sound. Well, here's the thing. Sean Carter loves baseball and played baseball, for years, like not professionally, but, like in the professional system on his way to try to do that. And just a lot of ball paid for just for the pleasure of loving baseball. And he watched that episode. I'm like, tell me about Take Me Out to the Holodeck. And he's like, that's the stupidest episode of Deep Space Nine ever. And I'm like, I'm shocked. You love baseball. And he's like, why would you play in the holodeck instead of the park-like planet below? And I had to think about that. And then he was like, and why would the Vulcans decide to only use human level strength? Was that like some way of them trying to like make it fair? Because it didn't seem like they were very fair. And I'm like, you're right. They're 5 times stronger. It's like, yeah, where's your 375-mile fastball that has like a small sonic boom? And I'm like, geez, that could have actually been great.
That would have been cool to see.
Yeah.
Like, imagine like the baseball
your wooden bat. If you actually make contact with that, wouldn't you just like shatter the bat or break your arm?
Well, it's a holographic ball.
Oh, there's a Louisville slugger tree that grows on Bajor that is able to withstand the force of the Logicians throwing the baseball.
Mhm.
But like he was so right. First of all, you wouldn't be able to get one hit. Maybe the best play, like Cisco, would have fouled one pitch back in his at bats. It would have been a complete game no hitter, if not a perfect game for the Vulcan starter who wouldn't have broken a sweat. And God help the human who got like swipe tag trying to steal second. And Dr. Bashir is being carried off to be to be transported to another station. Thank God the Ticonderoga is docked to the station right now because there'd be no one to help Dr. Bashir. He looks like that's a shattered skull, all right, Jim. I mean, the Vulcans are 6 times stronger. Let me talk a little bit about this particular episode of Star Trek and give it my grade. Guys, this is a really good episode of Star Trek, in my opinion. I have to agree. JT, did you go?
I have not yet. Ever.
Yeah, you know what? You have to go. Go ahead, JT.
All right.
Your assessment and grade.
So I would consider this a nearly perfect episode in terms of a small, self-contained story, pacing through all 5 acts, if you will. The ability to have a TOS first contact story on a TNG plus level set. The way that everything was written, I don't think stretched anything in terms of believability. Where some people are saying this episode, maybe the apothecary was a little too level-headed with everything. I would disagree. I liked seeing her being the way that she was in all those scenes, mostly because we've seen the alternative in something like Star Trek First Contact with Lily just freaking out about the Borg and everything with Picard every 2 seconds. And I did not enjoy that after the first time I ever watched that movie. So I think it's refreshing and nice just to see somebody with an open mind, the way that Star Trek would like people to be. Even if it was mystical and fantastical, I do want to defend how they handled that character. I thought Phlox was in there at just the right amount of time. I thought the trip with the beam up and beam over of everything was nice. Yes, was it a little convenient at a couple points? Sure. I mean, it was probably more realistic that the Enterprise would have been blown up.
The thing
by that ship,
the thing we need to get rid of is exactly the thing that will disable the alien bad guys by getting rid of it and blowing it up. Yeah.
Yes.
It's
You know,
made of
that was
convenience, sir.
convenient, but I don't think it was too FU to the viewer, insulting, at that level of convenience. I did love the chemistry between John and the apothecary. I'm just forgetting her name. Rena and Rian. Thank you. Because I was calling her Rihanna. Yeah.
She's about to release her coffee shop zither album. Yeah.
That's true.
I also thought Hoshi and T'Pol were beautiful in the episode, with the costumes that they had to wear and the way that the hair was done, and it's not nose aliens or forehead aliens. They're kind of forehead aliens, but I thought the species was tasteful. I thought the sets were great. I really like this episode.
And
Shall I
you
give a
wanna give it
a rating,
Yeah,
or
go
are we
ahead and
still
give it
going around for that?
We're going with that. Seems like letter grades are sticking this week, and our viewers have been asked to give it a letter grade.
Yep,
Thank you to everyone who liked it, by the way, who liked this episode and who's liking the breaking the ice conversation. That deserves a better fate. For 2,200 on the Andorian incident and like just about 100 on breaking the ice, if the pattern follows in about 2 weeks, I guess that'll be on Tubi and everyone will freak out and Google it. I don't know what happened. But okay, so what's your letter grade?
Easy. I give it an A.
I had that written down already. All right. Anything else you want to add, or are you good?
Nope, I'm good. Thanks, April.
All right. Here we go. It's your buddy Admiral Teag, and this is my take on the episode Civilization. You know what? 9 episodes in, we have really good pacing. We have an episode where we show the captain is sort of strong, resolute. He makes a few executive decisions. We even have that early morning meeting that we're going to start seeing more and more of, where everyone's drinking their coffee out of a travel cup, familiar to people from the 1990s and early 2000s, and even in use today. It's still a more familiar and more accessible looking Enterprise. And we take the stakes and we go pretty small. The captain sort of scoffs at the idea that we be overly military, but we're going to stick with protocol. To Paul is the one who just sort of exerts a military hand in this one, and she's like tactically the best. Like if I'm Archer, like for the next few battles, I'm like just like take tactical to Paul. I'm gonna watch you. She did really good. I'm going to the simulator with her every day because she absolutely had a good idea of what she was doing, and she made those aliens really just regret messing with the Enterprise, which to her, she's like, damn, I've got like a 1978 AMC Pacer, and I've got to deal with these aliens who have like, a 2024, Corvette. And she does it quite well. She finds out, even the greatest car won't run if you flatten the tires, or comes up with a very simple solution that solves all their problems. Yes, the replicator or whatever it was they blew up was made of convenientium, but to give this an end inside of the 45, 46 minutes that they keep themselves to, and not have this be a sloppy, ragged end, it didn't feel rushed. While convenient, it was earned. This was what television was expected to be. It happened in a television time frame. It's an A. I'm not going to give it an A plus, because an A plus would have had even more action, but I like the action. I like the beating people up. I like the hands-on captain who will grab you and beat you in the face, and I like the hands-on captain who will grab the beautiful TNA girl of the week and just kiss her right outright to solve his technical problems. We're going to set to the Star Trek Matrix after we blow out of here, because unfortunately we're getting a little close to the weird witching hour. I'm willing to go a little later. These are the grades. Resolute Germ has given it a B minus. PDB gave it an A. JT Kirk, I guess this episode was made by someone from his planet, because he gave it an A. It was the best, the highest grade he's given any episode this year. And this was the only time that he and I were like on the same level. Admiral Teague also give this an A, giving this episode overall a rating of like, basically it's a solid A. The B plus gets raised to an A because it's the B minus gets raised to an A because we have 3 solid A's. I can see why there's a little bit, and my job is to nitpick. So in the first view through, I nitpicked and I thought about it. I did not like people's reactions during the gunfight. I did not like the fact that she didn't have a sense of wonder at this technology. And I agree with everyone and what everyone said about why it was okay because of what she was, how she was set up and everything. But this would have made everything a lot better. 1 or 2 lines of enabling dialogue where she said she'd been following them around and seeing things like that. And that would have been it for the rest of the episode. So I think that was a missed moment. And this episode's 45 seconds shorter than most other episodes. It was 45 minutes and like 10 seconds. We go 46 minutes. So we had that time to deliver that. And in my heart, this is climbing the second favorite Star Trek show of all time. I think that I'm starting to like this a little better than Next Generation. And I'm wondering if that's not because the Next Generation actors just behaved in a way that we find absolutely infuriating. And thank you for liking the conversation, for breaking the ice, helping us out, get the conversations off the ground. We'll bring more people on board. Every once in a while, one will catch on. Everybody watched a big chunk of the Andorian incident when they were loving it. Watch the watch party, because it's a watch party and the nature of a watch party. Once it's over, it's over. But if we could get the conversations that were getting lost edited into a supercut, we could have a meaningful Star Trek conversation. I'm holding on to a gem from last week and a gem from this week. There'll be a time that I need those, but if anybody wants to come join us over on X, we're going to do the Star Trek Matrix there. And then, have a slightly different and spicier conversation. But
Right.
I do want
We
to
get
thank
to be
everyone here.
uncensored.
Yeah, we get to use words like GUN instead of saying a phaser all the time. It's a solid B-,
You get
says
to turn on
Phantom Outsider.
atmospheric filters.
Let me see if I can't get as many comments as I can before we get to, I'm going to say 11:12 is the witching hour. Like, it's a nice sequential, weird, but not too sequential thing. I don't want fence posts up there. I want my team to put on at least 2 runs every day. I was feeling mean today, JT. So you know what I did to make sure that people didn't talk to me?
What's that?
I put on a Detroit Tiger hat. We've got the Star Trek poll to go on here. It's an hour old. Rate the episode Civilization, Season 1, Episode 9 of Star Trek Enterprise. A, 26%. It got 19 votes, so it was pretty easy to do the math. A, 26%. B, 32%. C, 32%. D, F, 11%. Let me see where Mark's grade is. I'm trying to track it down. PDB, do you see it? Mark, do you see
I see it at 11:16 timestamp.
Oh, okay. I can find that timestamp. There we go. Mark D with a C, who is just the greatest, says, I gave this one an A too. Is it interesting to see the origins of the Prime Directive? Yeah, we do have the Prime Directive sort of nascent here. And I guess in a non-Star Trek, but public forum, before we get out of here, I'll give it 2 more minutes. Guys, next week, there's a holiday weekend, right? It's Labor Day next week, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Comrades.
Oh
All right. Well, never let it be said that I'm a mean boss. I think a lot of people here might have stuff to do. My preference is Monday.
Monday, definitely.
Yeah.
PDB?
Sure. Good man.
All right. The next Saving Star Trek will be 9:30 p.m. next week on Monday. So say we all.
So say we all.
Our highly guarded military secret. The next episode of Saving Star Trek. Thank you, everyone, for another amazing night on Saving Star Trek. Computer, destruct code 1, 1A, 2B, authorization, Teag, destruct.
Affirmative.
D, RRTNZ. RRTNZ, thank you for the continued generosity. You are the fucking man. Thank you so much. You know what? When we have our con, we're going to have it in Auckland, and then we're going to go visit the skeleton of T. Amuamua, the giant sea turtle given as a gift by Captain Cook to their king. It's in Blade Runner, the book. Faith of the Heart, yes, Phantom Outsider. And everybody who's been here. Gavin Blackburn was here. Wes Cagle was here. We had a great, beautiful member chat from our pal who's been with us for 8 months. And you know what? It makes me have to think that it's time to probably use that line because I can't get in trouble now.
Why, Spock? Why? All you had to do was pull the trigger.
Jonathan Davis. Phantom Outsider. Gedden, 436. And again, RRTNZ, we couldn't be more grateful. Thank you so much. trying to see all your names. There's so many comments and so much engagement. I got to thank everybody for it. Gorilla's Random Thoughts was here. Over on X, we had Admiral Teag. That guy reminds me of myself. Critically Thinking and Drinking is the one who brought all of you to us on X. We will be continuing there. Don't go anywhere if you're on X. And to all of you, I say, Tim, FKHAC, and all, thank you so much. I love you all. My distinguished co-panelists will have their channels in the description of this show because we have to run like hell. YouTube, goodbye. We love you.